G'day everyone, and welcome to tonight's call. I am really excited for tonight. Reason is we've never ever done this before, and I think what you're going to get access to tonight is truly world class. So my name is Michael Sloggett. I'm the CVO at a company called MTC Education, and I love cryptocurrency. I genuinely love everything that this space has to offer. And I love all of the different elements of it, whether it's buying and holding, trading, decentralized finance. I even love NFTs, even though the $1 million monkeys make no sense to me. But I love what crypto represents, and I truly love the power that cryptocurrency can give you. I've been in the space now since 2016, got heavily invested in 2017, and I have never gone anywhere else since. It's what I've done full time now, going on 8 years, which is absolutely crazy. And I wouldn't change anything for the world. It's produced some amazing lessons, some incredible profits, some amazing experiences, but it's introduced me to some of my favorite and most loved people in the world now. And if it wasn't for crypto, I don't think I would have met the people that I have in my life now that I am truly grateful for, from all around the world, all the way from the East Coast to the very West Coast of Australia. All my favorite people have definitely come from crypto. So this space has been an absolute blessing. And tonight's call is going to be run by one of the gentlemen that I was actually lucky and fortunate enough to meet because of this space. I was introduced to this man in 2017, immediately created a fantastic friendship, and we started working together very quickly. This is a guy that he had a level of intelligence and brilliance that was really attractive to me, because he loved to look at things almost from a pessimistic kind of perspective, where he wanted to see why it wouldn't work, or he wanted to understand how it would break. And it's because he comes from an engineering background. And what I loved about that was, for as long as I'd been in crypto, all I had ever been surrounded by was people who were filling the space with hopium, that were trying to say that everything was amazing and everything was beautiful and everything was going to make everyone rich. And this is the first guy that he kind of said, well, Bitcoin's a scam. And I was like, oh Jesus, that's heavy. Let's talk about that. And what's crazy is it led me down a garden path where I could look at things very differently than I had up until that time. We got to travel to little parts of the world together as well, and most recently able to start working together again in a really kind of full-time capacity, which has been absolutely amazing. So this gentleman is part of our educational team at MTC Education. MTC Education, again, is the company that I'm the CVO for, and we're a cryptocurrency education company. So we have a bunch of different educators, teach everything from trading, long time frames, small time frames, using different methods. And we also have educators that teach different areas or sectors of cryptocurrency, like decentralized finance, and we've even taught NFTs and a bunch of other cool, exciting things. Donnie does every single week what is called a market scan. One night a week, this gentleman literally spends an hour, usually a hell of a lot more, going through all the different opportunities that he sees that week where you can earn money and things that he thinks could be profitable. Who thinks it would be pretty cool every single week to sit down with someone for an hour and them tell you how to make money that week? See, most people don't have anyone sit down with you for an hour and tell you how to make any money your entire lives. Truth is, most people just get told to go get a job, and then once they get that job, get told to work really hard, and then one day, hopefully, that job will reward you with more money than you have now. And the truth is, we don't really have any friends around us that really sit down and kind of mentor us or talk to us about how we can do better and show us ways that we can think a little bit bigger than we currently think. So people within MTC every single week get that opportunity. And throughout the week, he's very active in our community. We have a world-class social media platform that people can share all of their insights. And it's a really, really, really cool deal. So we're very happy to have Donnie as one of our lead educators. He is going to be helping us with our up and coming course, which is launching in just over a week. So if you like what you hear tonight, I'm going to give you an opportunity at the end to get in and be a part of that on a deal that literally is you're almost pretty much going to get it for free. So it's definitely worth hanging around. But without further ado, I just want to hand it over to Donnie and let him show you what he does best. So, Donnie, take it away, man.
Thanks, Mick. Another brilliant intro. You're like the god of these intros, man. They get better and longer every time. Guys, I just want to quickly give you a quick rundown on why I've sort of moved away a little bit from trading and moved into a lot more of the DeFi stuff. And this sort of came because I kept hitting a brick wall with trading. When my account was getting bigger and bigger from trading, I was quite successful. I would have a lot of emotional swings when my balance got up. Originally, it was like six figures. When I got to like $100,000 account, the emotional swings, having these ten to $20,000 swings on a daily basis it was a little bit nerve-wracking, and I found these like roadblocks and harder to push forward. Eventually I sort of broke down these barriers and kept going. I took a few different strategies to sort of work my way through that. But again, I kept hitting these roadblocks. I'd get bigger. I'd get up to 500,000 and then hit another roadblock, get close to, seven figures and then hit another roadblock. So I started to find what worked for me, which was de-risking from trading a little bit and looking for more passive plays to sort of keep my money working for me, but without, trading with a seven-figure account, because it's quite nerve-wracking. So I really dove down the DeFi space because I knew there was something there, but I wouldn't say I didn't understand it, but I wanted to understand a lot of the platforms and the opportunities in there and really sort of, find what worked for me. I spent the good part of a year or so going into that space, big deep dive, and found a few things I really liked. And I fell in love with it. I actually enjoy it more than I do trading now. I just really enjoy the coming up with different passive strategies. And what I mean by passive is it's not as hands-on. It doesn't require anywhere near as much time to be in front of the computer looking at charts and entering trades and exiting trades and all that sort of stuff. It doesn't take anywhere near as much time. And I feel like that really appeals to a lot of people. I feel like majority of people, I've been in this space now for like 6-7 years teaching. I know that the majority of the people who come in and learn to trade have full-time jobs, and sometimes they don't have the time to really apply the skills. They learn all this knowledge, but then they don't have the time to apply it. So I really like the passive side of DeFi and finding these strategies that don't require a whole lot of time, but people can still make pretty decent yield. And I find that, people are really liking it. I fell in love with it. It suits me. I get a lot more of my time back, and everyone's really loving it. So that's where I spend most of my time now, is in the DeFi space, looking for different opportunities to make yield that way. And tonight I'm going to share with you a strategy that I came up with just recently when the opportunity arose. And it's a little bit, it's not as straightforward. It's not some advertised figure that everyone sees and goes, oh, I'm going to put my money there. You got to know what you're doing to get these results. So I'm going to share my screen now and go through. I made a few slides. Just hold on a second because I've lost the Zoom thing. Give me 2 seconds. There we are. Zoom. Okay. All right, you guys should be able to see my screen now, I hope. Yep. Okay. So there's a few things we're going to be doing tonight, and I want to just highlight them. I'm going to explain them really simple terms, just so you get your head around it. And then I'm going to run through and actually show you how I do this and show you how easy it really is. So there's 4 terms that you're going to hear tonight. One is borrowing and lending. One is liquid staking. One is loop lending. And the other one is delta hedging. Now, if you're not too sure what all those things mean, don't worry. I'm about to run through them right now. We're going to be using one platform. It's called Camino Finance. And we're going to be using 3 different tokens to get this result, which is USDC, Solana, and Jupe Sol. which is a liquid staking token. All right, so just to explain these four terms really simple to you, borrowing and lending, I'm sure you guys all understand what this is. So borrowers pay a fee to borrow other people's money, and lenders earn interest from people borrowing. So you can think of this very similar to your bank. When you deposit money into your bank, you'll notice that you earn a little bit of interest. Now, it's very, very small. You'd be lucky to get 1% from the bank. They don't really give you a whole lot. But what the bank is doing is they're taking your money that you deposited and they're lending it out to other people who want to borrow money. They're lending it to them at, anywhere from 15, 20%, maybe even higher interest rates. So the borrowers are borrowing at 20% interest, and then the bank is giving you're lucky to get 1%. And then the bank gets to keep the other 19%. What DeFi does is it democratizes finance and allows an open market for people to lend and borrow. So anybody like me and you can become the bank. We can lend our money and anyone can borrow money from it. The interest rates are much lower for borrowers. So instead of borrowing money at the rate of 15 to 20%, like in traditional finance, you can sometimes borrow as little as 2 to 3%, maybe even 5% interest. And then for a lender, which is somebody who deposits their money into the bank, instead of earning 1%, you're earning more like 10% or 12%. So we're basically cutting out the banks, which are making all the money, and we're just connecting the people who are depositing money to the people who are borrowing money. We're just cutting out the middleman. And that's what borrowing and lending is. We're going to be using a platform called Camino to do this. Now, the next term I got to explain is liquid staking tokens. This is a tricky concept for some people to get their head around. So I'm going to try and explain this the best I can. But liquid staking tokens are like receipts for staked tokens that would otherwise be locked. So what that means is there's a bunch of tokens that are proof of stake tokens, like Solana. Ethereum is now a proof of stake token, and most tokens are proof of stake tokens. Now, with a proof of stake token, you can stake Solana yourself. You can stake your Solana through your wallet, and you'll earn an interest rate of about 7 to 8%, something like that. It's called delegated proof of stake. So you are sending it to somebody else to stake for you, and in return, you earn a nice 7, 8% interest per year. But your tokens are locked in that vault. When you stake it, it is locked. If you want to unstake it, you can unstake it whenever you want. However, you have to wait for the next epoch, which is like 7 days, for it to unstake. So for whatever reason, you want access to your capital, you've got to wait 7 days for it. That's like going to the bank to withdraw your money and then the bank saying it's going to take 7 days before the money hits your account. And that's not very convenient for most people. So what liquid staking tokens do is when you stake your Solana into a validator, they give you a receipt. And this receipt is called a liquid staking token. And this receipt is basically a representation of your Solana that is staked. So that token that you receive, that receipt that you received, is a receipt to say, I own some Solana that is staked earning 7% interest. So that token actually tracks the price of Solana, but goes up in value at the rate of 7% per annum. So it increases its value of Solana over a period of a year. Now, the reason you might want to use this instead of just native staking is it gives you the flexibility to be liquid. So that scenario I gave you before where you need access to your money, you can sell your liquid staking tokens like that and instantly have liquidity. You don't have to wait 7 days for it to unstake or anything like that. So that gives a lot more flexibility for other people who want to remain liquid. Now, the other cool thing it does, it allows us to reuse that liquid staking token to do more DeFi activities, essentially using the receipt to earn more interest, all right? And that's where things get a little bit funkier. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be talking about is loop lending. This is probably not a very familiar term for most people, but loop lending allows traders to take advantage of interest rate arbitrage and multiply their position. So what that means is when you lend money, you might be lending at an interest rate of, say, 10%, but you can borrow that same asset for 5%. So what you do, or an asset for 5%. So what you end up doing is you lend money for 10% and borrow against what you lent for 5%, and then you re-lend that money that you just borrowed, which allows you to borrow more money, and you just keep looping that scenario, and essentially you're multiplying your position. So you will owe interest on the money that you're borrowing, but the interest rate is lower on what you're borrowing. So you might owe, say, 5% interest on $1,000, but you're now making 10% interest on $2,000. So you're making more interest on a larger position than you originally had. So essentially it enables you to leverage your ability to earn more interest and take advantage of interest arbitrage, which is a discrepancy between an asset that has a high interest rate and a low interest rate. Okay. Now you can only do that a few times, right? So you can only do that 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 times, depending on how big that arbitrage is. Before, what happens is you get a little bit over leveraged and you basically can't borrow anymore. So, there's limitations to loop lending. It's not an infinite money glitch, if that makes sense. Now, the last thing that most people probably wouldn't understand this term, but I'm going to do my best to try and explain it, which is delta hedging, or sometimes we're called delta neutral strategies. So delta hedging is a strategy used to balance the positive and negative swings so their net effect is zero. So for a lot of people, that probably didn't make any sense whatsoever. So I'm going to try and give you an example of how people sort of use delta hedging in traditional finance. So what people might do is they might buy a stock. Let's say they buy some Tesla shares. Now, they might think that Tesla might be going down, and they have the option to either sell their shares, which is going to cause a taxable event, or they can open up options and essentially or short the stock on the other side. So essentially they are what's called delta neutral, because they are betting on either direction. Basically, you're putting $50 on heads and $50 on tails. If the price of the stock goes up, you're still holding the stock, therefore you're getting that profit. If the price of the stock goes down, you're shorting the stock, therefore you make money on the short. Now, in most cases, that would be stupid because it'll just cancel each other out, right? Just like I said, $50 on heads, $50 on tails. You're going to lose one and win the other. You're always going to end up with no money. But in some cases, again, talking about arbitrage, in some cases, there's an arbitrage opportunity where you can actually create a delta neutral strategy, which means you've got no effect. Doesn't matter if the price goes up or down, you are going to be net zero on your investment. However, there might be a possibility to make yield on your investment. Now, in the term of options, you might have an interest rate that you're earning on it. Or in the terms of borrowing and lending, you might be earning interest on what you're lending. Therefore, you have no exposure to price volatility. It doesn't matter if the stock goes up or if the stock goes down. You do not lose money. However, you are earning interest at the same time. And that's what's called a delta neutral strategy, because you are making money without exposure to the market. And that is what we're going to be doing today. So that's the 4 things we're going to be doing, but it's really, really simple. What I just explained might sound really complicated if you're not new to any of this stuff, but it is really simple. We're literally going to click 3 buttons, and we're going to do it in 3 steps. We're going to lend our USDC, we're going to borrow Solana, and then we're going to multiply our Solana. And we're going to be using the one platform, which is Camino. So I'm going to switch over to Camino now. Now I've loaded up a wallet. Move this out of the way. I've loaded up a wallet with $1,000 just to show you an example live and show you how this works. So Camino is a borrowing and lending platform on Solana, and it allows us to, there's money markets here. We can lend, we can borrow, we can long, short, multiply. There's all sorts of things we can do on this platform. But today we're going to be lending USDC. Now, if you have a look here, here's our USDC market. In fact, I might zoom in a little bit so we can see a bit better. So we've got USDC here, and we can currently supply collateral, supply USDC at the moment and earn 12% interest. And then there's a bonus thing I'm going to talk about at the end as well. A little bit extra on top. So we're going to supply. I'm going to press the supply button and I want to put all of it in, $1,000. We're going to deposit. All right, wallet's going to just tell me to confirm it. And we're going to chuck that money in. So it normally only takes a second or two. Okay. Now we can track our position. We can come up here and look at main position. And you can see here, we've got $1,000 in collateral, supplied lending, earning 12%. Okay. That now gives us borrowing power because we now have $1,000 as collateral in this platform. We can now borrow against that. Think of it as like equity in a home and you're borrowing, you're remortgaging your finances and things like that. So now we're going to come down to Solana. Now you see here, we can borrow Solana at the rate of 5.5%, which obviously is an arbitrage between what we are currently lending on USDC. So now what we're going to do is we're going to borrow Solana. Now I'll press max because I want to explain this a little bit better for you. It's not going to let me borrow $1,000 worth of Solana. All right, it's not going to allow you to create this infinite money glitch. They have what's called a loan to value ratio, and they normally only let you borrow up to 65% of your collateral. So in this case, I don't know if you can see it here, but it's roughly $650 worth of Solana. That is the maximum it's going to allow us to borrow with our $1,000 as collateral. So we're going to borrow that. Borrow a maximum of 3.67. Oh, I might have to try that again. Oh, what's going on? Ah, wrong button. Solana, borrow, max. If there's price swings before I do it, then it's going to trigger out like that. See if it goes through. I might just have to borrow just a little bit less so that it will allow me. No, I don't think it's going to go through. All right, let's try just borrow 3.65. Should allow us to borrow that. No. 3.62. It's not liking me tonight. Let me just refresh. Main market, Solana, 5.5%. Let's try max again. Oh, it does not want to work. Oops. What is going on? 3.6. Why is it doing this? I'll just try and borrow a little bit less. I don't know if there's like a slippage issue. Borrow. Let's just go 3.5. Oh, this is not wanting to go through. Sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on here, but if you're wondering why I'm not doing it, it says this transaction's reverted during simulation. Funds may be lost if submitted. So basically it's saying that this isn't going to work. Could be a congestion with the blockchain. It could be a price discrepancy. It doesn't normally do this, but it does sometimes if there's a lot of congestion. Let me just try and borrow 3. Should at least do that. I want to do it. This is going to be a great demonstration. Oh my God. Three. Does not want to work. This is going to be painful to do this demonstration because I want to do this live for you. I'll keep trying that in a minute. No, I need to do this. I need to show you. Go through. I don't know if there's, just give me 2 seconds. There may be some issues. Nope. Should be working. Oh, I don't know what's going on. Main position, $1,000. This should work. No. All right, I'm gonna have to simulate this for you, which is a pain because I really wanted to show you the effects of this. So I'm just going to withdraw this, and we're going to pretend that I just borrowed 3.6 something. I think it was 3.67. Now it's a bit of a pain. So I'm just going to quickly swap over some USDC just so we can run this simulation. All right, so we've lent Solana, we've lent sorry, $1,000 worth of USDC, and we're now currently earning 12% interest on that. We've then borrowed 3.6 something Solana, $650 worth of Solana at 5.6%. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take that Solana and we're going to go to multiply, and we're going to put it into Dupe Sol multiplier, which is an automatic loop lending strategy. Now, this was a little bit higher the other day. It's dropped back down a little bit now, and that's why I said the other day it's like up to 30%. I think today we should be able to get close to, say, 26%. But there's been days where I've been getting 34% interest on this delta neutral strategy. So what we're going to do now is we're going to multiply. So we're going to deposit our Solana into here, and we're going to do max. Oh, sorry, not going to do max. We're going to do 3.65 or whatever it was. And we're going to max multiply. Now, you don't have to do max. You can drop it down a little bit. Now, what I'll explain is the 5x means 5 loops. It is going to loop lend your SOL into Dupe Sol 5 times, taking advantage of these interest rate arbitrages and the way that they operate. What's called a flash loan basically enables this little infinite money glitch. Well, it's not infinite. They can only do it 5 times maximum. Now, I will explain the risks right now. So at a 5 times leverage, you can see here the loan to value ratio is up to 80%, depending on the discrepancies between the interest rates. Now, that might be 70% now. If the interest rates climb up, it might go to 72, 73 sort of thing. Now, we don't really need to worry about it. There is a liquidation point which is above 85%, and we are pretty close to it, right? However, if you have a look at the info and risks section, Camino explains how they manage your risk, and they automatically deleverage your position. So if there is a risk of liquidation, if it does get up to 85%, they automatically de-risk your position. So you don't lose your money, you just earn less yield, okay? So it is safe in that aspect. However, if you're not comfortable doing 5x, you can do 4x and so on and so forth. If you have a look at the specs here, it'll show you what maximum loan to value ratio that'll be. As you drop it lower, you'll see that number get lower here. So if you want to remain super safe, you can go 2.4. However, obviously at 2.4x, you're not earning anywhere near as much yield, okay? So we want to go 5, and we're going to do that 3.65 that we borrowed. So we borrowed 3.65 Solana. But now what we're going to do, we're going to do this in 2 steps. We've got to set up the account. the position, and then we're going to deposit our SOL into the position. So this is just setting up the position, and now we're going to deposit into the position. Okay. Oh, don't do this to me again. Oh, what is going on tonight? This is literally normally 3 or 4 clicks of the mouse and it's good to go. But for some reason, tonight, it doesn't want to work. Making a fool out of me. While we're waiting, I'll just explain, because it's got some examples here I want to quickly run through. So you can see how much Solana your position is, 3.65. You can see your multiplier, which is 4.97, and the net APY, which is what they're going to estimate get you, which is 24% yield. And it shows you here how much you would earn over the 365 days based on your position, okay? Now, what you got to understand with this dollar value, this is based off the current price of Solana. Now, what it's actually doing is earning you more Solana. It's not earning you more dollars, it's earning you more Solana. But because Solana is worth $170 or something, then that's how much yield you're making. So in saying that, if Solana was to go up in price, this yield you earn will also go up in price. Instead of being 150, that'll be 170, 180, so on and so forth. So as the price of Solana goes up, this number will also go up. On the same side, if the price of Solana goes down, say it goes down to say 120 or something like that, then this yield here will also drop. Instead of earning 150, you will earn 120 or 118 or something like that. I'm just going to refresh and see if this will work. It's been a real pain. Solana max 3.65. Oh, unless this is maxed out. Let me have a look. I didn't check to see if it was maxed out. Dupe Sol. No, 87%. So it's still got more to go. It just does not want to work for me tonight. Oh, why is that happening?
Donnie, could you, sorry, just while you are having errors like this, what I think would be really beneficial is maybe just explain to people why these errors happen, that it's not the end of the world. And this is actually quite typical when dealing with decentralized finance. And although it kind of looks frustrating and broken at the moment, it's actually quite typical when on these platforms. And if you can just explain kind of the workarounds and the patience that you kind of need to have to, I guess, mitigate this.
Yeah. So it's kind of, it's funny to explain this one, right? Because Solana has had we're using the Solana network at the moment, and there's a bunch of other networks you can use as well. And some other networks might not have these issues. They might not have these congestion issues. However, a lot of other blockchains don't really get much use. Now, this is just a rough comparison, but there's lots of blockchains out there you would have heard of, like Cardano and Polkadot and Say and Binance Smart Chain and Ethereum and so on and so forth. They're all layer 1 blockchains. Now, most of those ones that I just mentioned, put it this way, they have like 1,000 people using them. So trying to get a transaction through isn't that hard when there's only 1,000 people shopping on the network. Solana has like 10 million people trying to shop on the network at once. So as you can imagine, going into a busy shop, everyone's rushing for the counter. It's a little bit hard to try and get your money through the counter sometimes when there is lots and lots of people trying to pay. So it's like a temporary problem. It comes and goes. They're normally really good. Solana is doing a lot to scale because they have to, because they have so many users and so many transactions per second. They have to keep scaling and scaling to handle the load. Now, a lot of people will sort of shit can Solana and say, oh, it's crap. It has congestion, it fails. But it's like, that's because it has 100 times more transactions, more users than any other chain. And if any other chain had anywhere close to the amount of users, they also fail. or they have like fee issues where people are paying $60 to send $10 worth of coins to somebody in a transaction fee. So look, it is frustrating. Solana's gone through a bunch of changes recently that because of all the on-chain activity, there isn't really a fix to it from a user's perspective like us. All we can do is keep trying or come back later. There's a few little things, I'm not going to nerd out and explain it, but there is some options you can do by getting custom RPCs, which you pay a little bit of money for, you muck around with your wallet, and all of a sudden you sort of front run everybody else. Essentially, I gave that analogy before of all these people trying to pay for their groceries at the same time. Imagine you are offering a tip to the cashier to do your transaction first. That's essentially what a custom RPC does. It allows you to pay a little bit more in fees, but you get priority fees, which means you front run everybody else. It's a little bit tricky to set up, so I'm not going to go into that today, but there is workarounds for it. The other thing is you just wait and see. The other thing to remember is this space is very experimental. So what I mean by that is, some of these platforms are brand new. Some of them have been around for 6 months, brand new code, brand new smart contracts. They've been audited and they're working, but there's little bugs in code. Sometimes things don't work the way they should, and sometimes they need fixes. It happens. For the majority of the time, it's pretty good. It's just, this is, I don't know why it's doing it right now, which is like the worst time to start playing up is when I'm trying to explain it to everybody or show them. That is like the worst case scenario.
Sonny, is it possible, if it's not going to work tonight, could we pretend that it did, and you give us an example of what this would have washed out and looked like if it had have all worked in a perfect world?
Yep. Okay. So let's just assume that, excuse me, that went through. We could now click on our portfolio and you'd be able to see that position open. Excuse me. And basically we would be earning 24% on our Solana using this little loop lending strategy. You don't have to do anything. All you do is you deposit your money and it takes care of the rest. So what that means is we're earning 24% more Solana per year, but we only have to pay out the loan that we have is only 5%. So we're beating that interest by nearly 20%. So even after paying our bills for the year, our interest for the year on what we borrowed, we're still up 20% on our Solana. Now, on top of that, we're still earning 12% on our original capital as well. So you add that together and you're making, in that case, 32% or something like that. It'd be a little bit less, right? I've got some examples to show you exactly how that math works out. So you might be thinking, okay, actually, no, let me show you the examples. Go back to here. All right, so these are the three things we did, and I'm going to give this example with $100,000. So we lend $100,000 and we're earning interest at 12% annually, which means we are up $12,000 there. By the end of the year, we would have earned $12,000. Now, the money that we borrowed, we can borrow up to 65%. So that means we're going to borrow $65,000 worth of Solana, which at the current price would be 392 SOL. And we owe 5% annually. Well, I'll explain that a little bit better soon, but we would essentially owe $3,250 worth of Solana, or 19 Solana, by the end of the year. However, the Solana that we borrowed, we put to work and is now earning 30% a year, which means we're making another $19,000 or 117 SOL profit here. So when you look at it on paper, we're making $12,000 here, we're making $19,500 here, and we only owe $3,000 to the bank here, which gives us a net profit of $28,000 or an annual yield of 28% on our original $100,000 deposit. So a lot of people will now ask about the risks. So what happens if SOL goes up, SOL goes down, things like that. So there is some things to note. The reason this is a delta neutral strategy is because we're earning that yield regardless of the price action of Solana. If Solana goes right down to $100, we would still be able to make close to 30% yield. And I'll explain how in a minute. If the price of Solana skyrocketed to $200, $250, we would still be able to make 30%, probably technically more, because the price of the asset's going up a little bit. We'd be making even more than 30%. So how do we mitigate the risk of price going up or price going down? So when price goes up, we need to deleverage our position. And when price goes down, we can leverage our position. So what that means is we go back to here. I can't show the example because it's not showing on the board. But when we actually, let me see if I can quickly just lend some money so you can see the dashboard. At least then we'll have a bit of an idea of how that works or what that looks like. Just letting me lend money, it just won't let me borrow anything. All right, so I lent this in the JLP position, but it doesn't matter. So you can see here, this gives us an idea of what we're lending, what we're earning. And then this is our health bar, right? Our loan to value health bar. Now, if we borrowed money on this side, then our health bar would be wherever it is. Now, if the price of Solana goes up, this health bar would go higher and higher towards liquidation. And we don't want that, because if we get liquidated on that, we lose our money, all right? Or you lose, so I should say you would lose your lending deposit, but you would still have your multiply position, which would equal roughly what you had in there anyway. So you don't lose. But as the price of Solana goes higher, we just need to deleverage our position, which means we'd go back to the multiply screen. We would go to our dupe sol position. And not that we have a position, but there would be a button here. Doesn't come up, but there's a button here that says withdraw. And we would press withdraw, and you would withdraw, you know, half a dupe sol or one dupe sol or whatever. And then you would go back to your screen here and you would just pay back your loan. And as you pay back your loan, this health bar would drop back down, because this health bar is a representation of what you were lending versus what you were borrowing. If the asset that you're borrowing goes up in price, it's going to be higher than what you are lending. So you need to reduce your loan exposure. So you reduce or withdraw your multiply and pay back your loan to drop that value back down. So that's how you mitigate risk if the price goes up. Now, if the price of Solana goes down, we can now leverage it harder, okay? So what that means is if the price of Solana goes down, our LTV drops, which means we can now borrow more Solana than we had before. And we can now go back into multiply and multiply more Solana to get that LTV back to 65, 70% and earning that 30% yield. So we can manage this position easily, whether the price of Solana goes up or the price of Solana goes down. It doesn't matter. We will always earn that 30% yield on our original deposit of $100,000, which makes us a delta neutral strategy, which means we have no exposure to the price fluctuation of Solana. And you're essentially earning 30% on your USDC. How's that, Mick?
Mate, spot on. Perfect.
Yeah. It sucks that I can't show you exactly how it works. That's a real pain.
But let's like rewind that for a second, because there was a couple of questions that I thought was super relevant that I think we could probably just spend a second on. So one of the big ones was, how long do you have to lock your money up for? And based on what I just saw, it doesn't look like there's a time frame. Is that right?
There is no lockup. So that's the beauty of using these types of platforms. There is no lockup period. You are completely liquid. If you wanted to unwind your position tomorrow or right now, you can. There's no locking periods. So
cool. So in that situation and that scenario, let's say, and again, I'm just playing devil's advocate, let's say the Solana price started tanking quite quickly, and all of a sudden your numbers kind of got, started looking like your bar health, right, that you said was looking like it was going to get to a point where it wasn't going to make you money anymore. What are your options in that scenario?
That's actually the best case scenario. This is why I love this strategy, because both scenarios of the asset going either direction, you can turn it into a massive positive. So for me, it's like, I just love it. Right? When someone comes at me with this, I was just like, it's even better. If the price of Solana goes down, you remember that loan you got? That loan you got just become heaps cheaper to pay back. All right. You've got to remember this. You're not
Wow.
borrowing, when you borrow $65,000 worth of Solana, you are not borrowing $65,000 worth of Solana. You're borrowing 312 Solana. All you have to pay back is 312 Solana. If Solana drops in price by 50%, your loan that you borrowed $65,000 just turned into $37,000. You just made $37,000. That's what's called a cover trade. That's why shorting was invented.
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate again, because obviously I was here for the Celsius debacle.
Yep.
This looks like it's smart contracts from your individual wallet. So, in that saying, am I not exposed to a third-party platform that can go broke? I'm how to explain that to me real quick.
Yeah. So the difference between Camino and Celsius, Celsius was more of a, what you would refer to as a Web2 custodial, trying to be DeFi. They could
It would be
disguise
like
themselves.
sending all your money to Commonwealth Bank and them doing it for you, right?
More like a guy who works for Commonwealth Bank.
Okay.
It's even worse.
Right.
So yeah, Celsius is what you would call CeFi, where it's centralized finance. So it's disguised as DeFi because it's crypto and you're sending it to wallets and stuff, but it's not decentralized. It's still all controlled by a central entity and you cannot see what's happening. They're making up the numbers. They're making up the interest rates. This is DeFi, which is completely decentralized. It's been audited and anyone can check the blockchain and check it for themselves. You can't fudge these numbers because they're algorithmically controlled by borrowers and lenders. There's nobody making up numbers, if that makes sense.
So okay, and again, like I'm 41 this year, so you can teach me like I'm an old man. What if I log on today and the Camino website vanishes? What am I what can I do? Let's say Camino goes down and doesn't exist anymore because I've got my seed phrase, I've got the smart contracts on the blockchain. I know that I'm still in control of all this, but the website doesn't exist anymore. What
Yep.
happens then?
So that's sort of the risks involved would be the people who control the website and who created the smart contracts could essentially run away with the money. Then that's what you would call a rug pull, I guess, right? However, those people are technically incentivized by their token value, right? In this case, Camino, this is KMNO token. If they rug pulled, their token would go to zero. Therefore, that big $500 million they're sitting on turns into nothing. So they're disincentivized to be ingenuine. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. So it's almost like, you know, Apple Apple wouldn't destroy all of their iPhones because that would make their own stock plummet,
Exactly.
right? Like they wouldn't send
Yeah.
out shit devices and destroy everyone's experience because their stock price would plummet. I'm
Essentially,
trying
yes.
to make this as like
Which is their
as
entire
dummy proof
network.
for my I'm trying to make it as dummy proof for my simple brain as humanly
Yeah.
possible.
The
Well,
platform would not be incentivized to pull the pin. They're incentivized to keep this ship running because they make money on all the fees.
gotcha. All right. So obviously that's it's a good chunk of information that people can use, and with that would be enough to kind of go off and have a play. And I'm sure you could watch lots of YouTubes, and I'm sure there's lots of stuff out there. How long did it really take you to learn this stuff and get good at it?
So it's tricky because I was already very well versed in the crypto space. As you know, I've been playing around with this stuff for 3 or 4 years before I even looked into going heavy into DeFi. So I already had the basic skills. I knew how to connect the wallet. I knew how to do a swap. I knew how things worked, but I just hadn't really participated. But in terms of how long did it take me to really nail it? Look, I would say I spent probably a good look, I reckon a couple of months people pick this up. And I say that because I just taught the decoding DeFi course in MTC, which went for roughly 2 months. And straight off the back of that, we got students making money, and they're loving it, and they know how it works. So I can comfortably say 2 to 3 months, do the course, learn the skills, practice, you could be making money. If you want to, really, refine strategies and find all these tricky things like what I do, then yeah, you're going to have to spend a lot more time. But it's not hard to learn these things.
But also in theory, if the platform had have worked perfectly tonight and I did what you taught me to do tonight in real time, I would be earning that 32% or whatever it was as of right now. So theoretically, if we did a session together like we just did right now, I could play along at home and I could deploy that strategy and I would be making money. I might not understand it entirely, but I would definitely be able to utilize it, right?
Is 100%. You would connect your wallet, you'd take 3 steps, you'd click 3 buttons, you'd lend your USDC, you'd borrow your SOL, you'd deposit into Multiply, bang, you're earning 30% on $100,000.
I love it. Or $100, right? Or if you have,
yeah, that's the beauty of DeFi.
Whatever amount of money you have, right?
Yeah, there's no barrier to entry. There's no limitations. No one's going to say, sorry, mate, this is for $1,000 minimum or $100,000 minimum. If you got $100, try with $100. Have a play with it, get comfortable. The other thing I want to quickly point out is we're talking about borrowing Solana and having that interest rate, right? Let me click on this one here. And the reason I said I was going to come back to this, because when you go to the bank and get a personal loan, right, 20% interest rate or whatever it is, you've got to make monthly payments and you've got to pay interest on those monthly payments. Like, you're paying interest all the time. The cool thing about DeFi is there is no monthly payments. It's an open-ended loan. You don't have to pay it off within a year. You could leave this loan open for 12 and a half years if you wanted to. It would keep accruing interest, but you don't have to make any payments. You just have to pay the loan off. The longer you have the loan open, the more Solana you're going to have to pay back, or the more fees you're going to have to pay back. So if you borrowed $65,000 and paid that off tomorrow, you would only pay $65,000. You wouldn't owe cancellation fees. You wouldn't owe X amount of interest and all that stuff on top. You would just owe what you borrowed. If you let it go for a week, you'd probably owe $65,000 and 12.5 cents, because that's how much interest had accrued during that period. Well, you wouldn't actually owe 12 cents. You would owe whatever amount of Solana. If Solana had dropped, you'd actually owe less back. And that's how you can use borrowing and lending strategies for longing and shorting natively, because you can borrow Solana, sell it to USD, $65,000. If Solana drops to $100, you only have to pay back 39,000. You get to keep that 20 odd thousand in your pocket. That's profit.
Just trying to think of when we look at that and we talk about the traditional world, or the traditional world of finance, or a normal loan, and let's say we look at it as an asset. We can use Craig has a beautiful Tesla that he absolutely loves and adores, and we borrowed $65,000 to buy it. And if we wanted to pay the loan back tomorrow, we'd have to pay all the interest, which is probably about $81,000. And if we wanted to sell the Tesla, it's probably worth about $41,000 now, because they can't sell. So we would have no Tesla and we would still owe the bank 40 grand. And that's a pretty shit deal. And that's why I hate traditional finance.
Traditional finance is a scam.
So look, we need to wrap this up, but here's what I want to let everyone on the call know. Donnie is an absolute genius, and to have access to him every week. So imagine this is what you learned tonight, one call, very, very quickly. Donnie's going to do another call like this. When's your next call in MTC? Tuesday. So Donnie's got a call on Tuesday. So that is, what's that, 5 days from now? So here's what no one else in MTC knows, but we are about to do another call for internally for all our members, where I have about 5 bombshell announcements. But one of the announcements is, as of right now, if you go and speak to the person who invited you to come to this call, you can join and be on that call next Tuesday for $1. So you can sign up to MTC and get access to everything we do, including Donnie's call, and you can do it for $1, just $1. That will get you access to the community that Donnie's in. You can ask questions. You can get on there and ask, hey, I was on the call tonight. I just became a brand new member. I want to do this. Maybe we could even ask Donnie, very politely, could he do another follow-up call when it's working and do yet another walkthrough? But the cool thing is, if you go and speak to the person who gave you the link to this call to be here tonight and say, I want to see Donnie again. I want to see ASX Trader. I want to see Raf, who made everyone 300% last week. I want to be a part of this community. I want to get access to all these videos. I want the 500 odd hours of pre-recorded content. You can get all of that for just $1. So talk to the person who invited you tonight. Let them know that you want to be a part of what it is that we do. Get access for just $1. Speak to Donnie again next Tuesday. And you could even go and watch his entire comprehensive DeFi course. If you got the week off work or whatever, go and get it all for $1, and it will be the best buck you ever spent. So Donnie, we appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much for your time. I can see how much effort you put into putting this together. I'm sorry it didn't work out
I'm spewing, man.
the way that it should have, but man, we are just blessed to have you. For the rest of MTC, I will see you on the next call.
Just quickly, Mick.
Yeah.
Just quickly, I just want to quickly highlight this. The USDC loan rate's just gone up to 18.9%. So you can see how quickly it fluctuates. You're now earning nearly 20% on your USD, which means using that method that we were doing before, you'd be earning about 37% on your USD right now.
So here's my next point. Stop being so silly.
Sorry.
Join MTC. Join MTC and, oh my God, just come and learn this stuff and put your money to work. And if you don't have any money to put to work, talk to me and I will show you how to take this amazing opportunity and show you how to make more money than you'll know what to do with if you're just prepared to put in a little bit of work. Russell Rodriguez, our #1 guy in MTC, he joined me when he had literally no experience and never invested in crypto, never knew anything about online business. He was a backpacker living out of a van picking fruit. In the last 2 years, we're just about to celebrate him making his $400,000 since being in MTC. So if you are in a little bit of a test right now, let's turn it into a testimony. And if you are going through some challenges, let's link arms and let's turn those challenges into a triumphant story that we can share with the world. So get with us. It'll cost you $1. Very, very glad that we got to see this tonight. And if anything else, go and explore it, have some fun, and hope you guys all make some money. God bless and have a good night.